How's it going today, everybody? Eddie Kernan for Rexylab. Welcome to the Guitar Murray. Today, we have a classic from 1988 and its owner, Mr. Bobby Boudreau. How's it going, Bobby?
Hello. How's it going, guys?
So, I know that this is a day of great nervousness for you.
Anxiety, maybe?
Yeah, because this super custom, super cool 1988 Jackson bass has a serious issue. The truss rod has something going on with it. Nobody exactly knows what. And as if that isn't enough, the fretboard's separating. So there needs to be major surgery done.
Yes.
Which I know you're very apprehensive about.
Very much so.
I promise to be as careful as humanly possible.
Oh, I understand this, but we have to understand that this is a piece of wood like we keep talking about, and that it's possible, and this is why you always go to a professional or somebody else who has more knowledge than you to pull things off, because somebody would probably break it off somewhere else.
Hot damn, and I'm sure you've seen it happen.
Oh yeah, I've been around enough repair people to where I've seen things get pulled off like a fretboard, and 4 to 5 years later still seeing the fretboard not attached back to the bass itself.
What we're going to do, first and foremost, is remove the neck from the body. That is what we're looking at right there. This is
But besides that, we can't not get the truss wrench inside of the truss rod.
Somebody was digging out underneath this thing, and they actually made the problem worse by digging out underneath. So all that did was make the truss rod drop all that much more. We're gonna be so careful with this thing.
Yes, there's the anxiety part.
We are. Don't worry about it. It'll be okay. It's easy for me to say because it's not my bass.
Flip it over and you gotta show underneath the camera. That
Oh, let's see. 2940. Let's see. Let's get a real good close up of that. 2940 Rainbow
Bangle.
Yeah, Rainbow Bangle
429/88 MG.
All right. Here's what we're gonna do.
Not we. What are you gonna do?
I am gonna slowly heat this thing up.
Well, I go.
You're free to freak out as much as you want. There it is. Here, let's lay it down. If it moves, it's a little, that's okay. Almost to the 3rd fret now. That makes me happy. Boy, this is taking a while, huh?
We're like an hour and a half to 2 hours into it, and about to the 5th fret right now.
Yeah, I had to take a break. But the 5th fret is about a third of the way through, so that's good. From our end here, you can really see that the fretboard is going one direction and the neck's going another. And what you can't really see, what we can, is that somebody cranked this truss rod down like nobody's business. It looks to me like somebody over-tightened it.
More than likely, yeah.
Man,
It's been about 6 hours later. Possibly 7. We're kind of like losing track of time right here.
whoa, whoa, hold on. Okay, we might be flipping this over. Because it just gave me a little slide.
Did the only do on the first one then.
Whoa! Hey-o! I don't want to go too crazy. Somebody over-tighten this.
Is it good or not?
We'll be okay. That is bent. Bent, bent, bent. All that carving out down below, that was just foolishness on the part of the last guy who gave it a shot. Now look, too. You see how it, remember how you told me that he started trying to pull it up? And that, like, he stopped. Look. Everywhere that we pulled it off, all nice and careful like that, you know, there's glue, there's a little bit of residue, there's wood from where this guy did it however he did it.
Right here.
Yeah, so no bueno, buddy. That's okay though, because you know what, we'll fix it. Okay, so it's obviously over tightened. So you see how we got the little hump right here, and then it goes down like that. That right there explains totally
why we couldn't get the wrench.
Why you can't get the wrench in. And you know what? At the same time, it's over tightened. So, like, as we tighten this thing up, for those of you who have never seen, and this is going to be great to illustrate this. Look, right there, instead of this going even, it's got a huge hump right here. But let's see, is this the wrench?
It should be.
So as I tighten this, it's going to shorten this and bow that up. Because somebody over tightened it, as they're bowing it down, it's like it's either going to pop this fingerboard right off of here, or it's going to bend this down. One of the two. Well, we found out which one loses. So it had nowhere else to go.
But, you know,
so it bent it down, and as it's bending it down, it's shoving it straight down into here, and so you can't get that wrench on it.
Unfortunately, I have to go to another session, but we are about 8 o'clock at night. We started about 2 in the afternoon.
2 in the afternoon.
About 6 hours or so. We did take some breaks and things like that. It's all good.
So you know when you've got to, like, do a whole nother truss rod, why it's so damn expensive. We have moved on, and the neck and the fretboard are completely separate here. And I've taken my big, very fancy flat machine surface tools here, and I have gone through and got this as flat as I dare. This is not the original truss rod. Let's talk a little bit about why this thing failed. Here's a regular truss rod. It's pretty simple. And it's got this anchor point down at the end. This part right here will either be at the headstock or down at the heel. And we just put a Allen wrench in and spin it, and it would bear against something, which would pull it tighter and get the string tension even. This is what was in the Jackson, and this thing is really, really weird because this right here, that part, this is a hollow socket. So as we tighten this, what happens is just this top rod moves. This rod does nothing. So as we go further and further and tighten it more and more, you see how the nut's getting more and more exposed? We're going to get to a point where it just can't go any further because it's bottomed out here and we're just out of nut there. This is why this thing failed. Somebody cranked it down so tight, the string tension was pulling so hard against it that it bent into the headstock. So this is not what we want. This, however, these two things look very similar, but they're completely different. So if I tighten this thing, you'll see that it starts shoving this up. But unlike that Jackson truss rod, this is attached. So if it's forcing it down, these rods are actually working together instead of one doing all the work and one doing nothing. But here's the thing, if we go the opposite way, then the opposite rod starts pushing. So this should just work way, way better. We are going to install this into here. And we're going to do a couple things to make that happen. The first thing we're going to do, in order to make it to where no glue sticks to this thing, we'll beeswax on it to encourage non-glue stickage. And that's just to keep the channel here clear. You get into this channel and coat it. With a little beeswax. Okay. The next thing will be to coat this top bar with a little beeswax. I want to do this before I stick it in. That way I get as little of it as humanly possible anywhere that it shouldn't go. We got this hole right here. We got this piece of metal right here. That lets me know where it goes. I want to glue this nut on so that we've got something for this to bear against, so that I know that it's perfectly square, or as perfectly square as Jackson put it on back in 1988. It's go time, show time, baby. Get some glue all up and down this sucker. Feel pretty smart that I put that wax on there. Let's get this sucker on there. This is always way easier to deal with before it dries. Neato. All right. So this sucker is clamped and gluing. So you would think that would be good enough, but I'm going to get a little extra jiggy with it. And we'll see what winds up happening. Really nothing else I can do now other than just let this thing sit here, and I could probably get away with letting it sit overnight, but I think I'm going to let it sit for about a week. All right, the moment of truth has come. It's time to take this thing off and see just how well this worked. So let's do that, shall we? It's like the most irritating Christmas present ever. I'll find that later. It's a little yucky. But you know what? It looks to me like it's going to work. I'll clean this thing up a little bit with some steel wool, because there's obviously a bunch of glue residue and crap like that, but that's okay. The binding that was popping off is no longer giving me an issue, so that's really cool. Okay, so it's all cleaned up. We've got all the glue residue off this thing. Nice and clean. All the schmutz is off of that fingerboard, and the few little places where the binding was coming up is back on. It's as clean as it can be, but we've got a bit of an issue. And the bit of the issue is this, that this is the truss rod wrench that came with this thing, and it doesn't want to fit in here. I'm going to go and I'm going to trim this up. I got my little nubby thing right there. I've gotten it to where it will fit nice and neat in there without a hitch, no matter what. And I even cranked this sucker a little bit so that we've got just a little bit of an up bow, because I want, when the strings go on this thing, for it to be like not going crazy, you know, William Tell bow and arrow style here. Well, here's what I'm thinking. I'd really like to do the full setup on this thing. I'm going to let it sit for a little while. Holy smokes. Okay. It's not too badly out of intonation, and I want the dude to decide exactly how it is he wants it to be set up anyway, and let me know. So we're just going to see about all this tomorrow, but this thing has sat overnight and it's held up beautifully. The repair is solid, everything's great, and the client is on his way over to pick the thing up. We're going to make sure the action is exactly the way that he wants. I'm a bit different of a player than he is, so, you know, it's his base. Customer's always right, so we'll set it up for him. A couple final thoughts on this particular base. It is a thing of beauty. There's no two ways about the fact that it definitely demands your attention, regardless of if you're enthralled or repulsed. In 1988, when this was made, we're kind of at the pinnacle of glam rock. And of course, shortly thereafter, grunge happened, and you couldn't give something like this away. And it's really obvious that that's what happened to this bass. When it first came into my clutches, it had been ridden hard and put away wet far more times than you could imagine. The issues that it had were horrific at best. And this thing could have very easily wound up having some replacement neck that was a poor fit put on, never intonated quite properly, and eventually had the finish sanded off, and then maybe someday somebody would have went like, I think that's a Jackson body, but nobody would have been sure. The fact that this Survivor is the way it is, and I'm confident now that it's got a promising future, because anybody who looks at it can see, you know, but that, okay, you have my attention. And then you look a little bit closer and you find out that this was in fact made at the custom shop in 1988, and it is very rare and was obviously very expensive. If it's not your cup of tea, you're just going to keep on walking. You're not going to try to buy it and sand the finish off and destroy the value, which quite easily could have happened. Like a phoenix from the ash, this thing has been brought back to life, and I hope that it lasts for many, many years to come. Until next time, this has been Eddie Kernan for Rexylab, making the world a better place, one resurrected bass guitar at a time.